Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you're listening to
Girls Nerd Out. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hello.
Obviously, Andrea's here too.
Yes.
And we are going to be going over episodes 5 through 8 of season 1 of Rings of Power. We're going to do basically an overview, hit the high points, and then we're going to bring up some things that we have a bit of a rant about, or we don't fully understand, or we have opinions on. Because a whole lot happens in the last 4 episodes. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
So in episode 5, we get Nori explaining to the stranger who's learning their language really fast that they migrate and how important it is to keep moving and stuff like that. So it kind of gives you an idea, if she's explaining that they have to stay moving to survive, something's going to happen. Because there's a reason she's telling him that. You know how you said he's kind of given Radagast?
Yeah.
He's actually given Radagast more now.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, in episode 5, he looks very brown, and who knows? You might be right, for all we know. But it's probably Gandalf.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are not thrilled with that, but I'm cool with it because people are saying that they should have introduced the Blue Wizards instead of Gandalf, and I'm like, well, I don't know who the Blue Wizards are. Not everybody has read the books, So I'm glad that they went with Gandalf.
Same. People that don't want it to be Gandalf, I don't think they realize the 2 Blue Wizards, there's not that much about them. They're not fleshed out like Gandalf. Gandalf is main character. So if you're gonna have a show succeed, you're not gonna have the Blue Wizards on there because that's just yet another character that people can't connect to.
Yeah. And again, I understand where most of the people that love the books, I get it, but not everybody has read the books, so you gotta look at it that way,
Yeah, you have to look at it as something separate because this is a story that was created, and yeah, there's some similar parts to things in the books and in the movies, but it's its own entity. That's just how you have to look at it. I mean, you said it yourself, like we talked yesterday, when we realized that House of the Dragon had show canon. That's its own thing. That's how we had to look at it.
Exactly.
Again, Tolkien purists that are listening to us, we are trying. Again, if we mess up names and stuff, we're better than we were last week. How about that? Yay!
Yeah. Because apparently I say Adar wrong. It's supposed to be Adar, but whatever. I'm going to call him Adar. I don't care.
I've heard him called Adar. Whatever. We're just going to keep calling him Adar. It's fine. Speaking of, Adar gives us a really cool moment. He's basking in the sun, and he has one of the orcs come up to him, and he's sad because the sun will soon be gone, and he actually says he wishes that the orcs could enjoy the sun. It's going to be really hard to make me dislike him. I mean, I'm sure they are, but he's not all the way evil. He cares too much.
Well, I was going to save it for the episode where we talk about, I think it's episode 8. But I want to say I did see some trivia where they said not everything is evil in the beginning. And, evil just twists and corrupts, but not everybody is evil at first. So that's kind of why I like Adar, because I don't see him as evil. Yes. Does he do bad things? Sure. But is it really that bad? He's doing it for a reason. So.
Okay, see, that leads me to think that season 2, we might see people be incredibly awful to Adar and the orcs. Oh, yeah. And that's how you see evil, is because like what happened with Galadriel, which we'll get into that later. But like, so if everybody just assumes they're all evil and they're mean to them, then they become what they thought they were. That's ironic.
And that's why I'm kind of looking at Sauron differently when we get to Sauron.
Yeah. Okay, so basically that whole thing is they need Mount Doom to
Yeah.
erupt, which it's not Mount Doom at this time, but they need it to erupt so it'll block the sun because the orcs can't deal with sunlight.
Which
So,
that really made me sad about the orcs because I'm like, oh man, they've never really been able to feel the
yeah.
sun.
Yeah, they can't deal with it. It's just not even a little bit.
Look at me feeling bad for orcs, but I do. I really like this road group. So
Yeah. I mean, that's what how we're supposed to feel. That's why it's written like that. And that I think it's really cool because otherwise I would just assume they were all evil. After that, we go to the Southlands, which they're all freaked out bad because they all think they're going to be captured and killed. And Bronwyn gives a speech to everyone, and she does a good job. She does. But you can go ahead and say how that went.
well, it didn't go well because half the people, which is led by that innkeeper, his name is Waldreg. He's like, well, why don't we just give in to the orcs? Why don't we give in to their leader? And she's like, no, that's not what we're trying. We need to protect ourselves. We can't, because he's bad. But Waldreg thinks that's Sauron, so he's like, we need to go. And they do. Half of them leave. I don't know exactly how many, but half of the humans that we see, they're all gone. They leave.
Yep, they leave because I mean these are people that previously supported Morgoth, and that's who they want to be with. So they just leave and can't really do a whole lot about it. Um,
And the orcs are not very far. Adar and the orcs are not very far from where the humans are at this tower. I forget the area. It has a name. I forget what it's called, but they're not very far. And so it doesn't take them long to get there. And they bow down to Adar, thinking that he's Sauron, and he's just like, I'm not Sauron. And they don't care. They still whoever you are, I'll still side with you. They want to fight with him, and which I find really interesting. And the fact that Adar is like, okay, sure, go ahead. You can fight with me, but you have to kill first. So he ends up killing somebody.
yeah. Did you notice that Adar's offended when they think he's Sauron?
Oh, he like laughs and not in a funny way. It's very,
Uh-huh.
very. Oh, I felt it. I felt how upset he was.
You know what I think? I think Sauron made him that. That's why he laughed like that. Like I think Sauron did that or he was there. They've got a history. You can't tell me they don't have a history. There's a reason Adar's in season 2. There's something there and it's probably going to be pretty shocking, I have a feeling.
I can't wait to see more of it because
Same.
I need more background on him and 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 Sauron in general. Like I just think it's gonna be very fascinating.
Well, so half of Bronwyn's people that show up there, I mean, these people, they've gone one way, another way, one way, another way. So his way of getting them to really swear fealty, they thought they just had to bend the knee. No, it says only blood can bind. And
Yes.
so he tells, what's the guy's name that we don't like?
Waldreg. Waldreg.
Okay, so he tells Waldreg, you got to kill that boy. And it's just a boy that followed him there.
I
And
know.
so that's his way to prove fealty. And he does it. So, good
Well,
for.
and what's interesting is I wonder if he's the only one that had to do that because eventually we do see these people again, but we didn't see every single one. So I wonder if that means other people were killed too.
Well, maybe if they bent the knee too easily, maybe those are the ones that he tested. You never
Oh yeah,
know.
that's very true.
Okay, we have Halbrand working at the forge.
I loved that, but I'm sitting here. I'm like, people are thinking that Gandalf is Sauron. They're thinking that that Adar is Sauron, and I'm just sitting here like it's obvious that Halbrand is Sauron because he's so obsessed with forging things.
Yeah, like it was a huge debate. Like everybody was Sauron, actually. Like literally everybody.
And but it just makes sense to me. I'm just sitting here, well, it has to be. And then in episode 8, especially when we get to that is where I'm like, hello, wake up.
Yeah, it's him. It's been him the whole time. Which is that was I mean, they shielded that pretty well. They did
They
a good
did.
job.
They did.
Numenor gives Galadriel 5 ships and 500 men to reclaim the Southlands, which that's not supported by everyone. Not every Numenorian agrees
Nope.
at all.
Especially Elendil's daughter. I'm just like, this is funny.
Oh yeah, Elendil doesn't give me 100% on it. To be honest with you, I think
No, he
he's
doesn't.
got reservations, and that's Isildur's dad. You definitely see that Numenor has a large population that are very resentful to the elves. It's very clear.
And Isildur wants to go. He wants to go, but his dad's just like, nope, you're not going. Thought you were. I mean, because he quit
Yeah.
his job.
Yeah,
So
he was a sailor and he quit, and Isildur wants to leave Numenor really bad.
oh yeah,
He doesn't want to stay there because like Numenor's an island, and he's one of those people that wants to explore. He wants to do more than just stay in Numenor, and I think that's kind of what drives him.
I know he tells Galadriel at some point. He tells her that Numenor doesn't feel like the old Numenor, like the true Numenor. So it's very interesting that he said that
Yeah,
because I don't know how Numenor was before this, but I agree with him.
I can actually explain that. I made a
Oh,
note.
go ahead.
So he says that the new current Numenor isn't like the old Numenor, and he wants to know if it still exists. He's referring to Valinor. He wants to know if
Oh,
Valinor still exists because that was pure Numenor, and she tells him it does still exist. The irony is, though, he'll never see it
nope,
because he's not an elf.
no,
So it's kind of like a bittersweet moment. Like, yes, the Valar are still there, but you'll never see them.
which makes it more sad,
Yeah, it does. But just the fact that he asked that question again proves that he's thinking outside of just Numenor. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
It goes to the Harfoots, and a woman comes up to Sadok and says that we should take the wheels off the Brandyfoot cart and let them die.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
savage. Jesus. I
Is that the
mean,
same woman that is she with Sadek? Is that who you're talking about, or is that I can't
it,
remember who she is, but she's freaky.
yeah, she's I don't know what she is. I mean, I guess she'd just be considered like an elder of them, I guess. But that was just, I was not expecting that. Take the wheels off and just let them die. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. And
They're
then,
really oh, go ahead.
well, then she's got to basically eat her words because these wolf things come out and start to try to attack, and they're huge.
They get help by the stranger. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Because
Without him, they would have died.
they would have. I was so scared for Nori and her friend. I didn't really care about the other chick, but
I mean, it's ironic. It's like, hey, let them die. The stranger's with them, and the stranger just saved all of y'all's asses. So
yeah.
maybe you want to think a little different.
And they end up thinking differently, which is crazy. I mean, good, but like it's just crazy to me how fast, how quickly, like really good character development, I guess.
Yeah, we're seeing the Numenorians get worse about the elves, but we're seeing the Harfoots get better about people that may not be able to keep up, and also with the stranger. So
Also,
it's a
oh,
good, like, I was just gonna say it's like a nice juxtaposition. Like one's getting more bitter and the other one's getting less.
yeah, and I know, and when you said that about the wheel thing, you know what I noticed is, they're all about themselves, right? Like they only care about themselves when it comes to migration, I guess. But
Yeah.
when they're as a community, they all help each other out. It's very odd.
Yeah, it's will help you as long as you can pull your own load.
Hmm.
But if you can't, we are we're out and we're not gonna stick our neck out for you. I would assume over the years there must have been a lot of times when they had to be like that. And well, especially okay, if you think about if you think about the fact that they had Morgoth, and I have a feeling that's why they're nomadic, is because they go wherever is safe, which makes sense. And so they have to be pretty cutthroat. But I don't think you have to be that cutthroat because there's plenty of people that can help. But from where they're standing, they're like, if we help one, we're going to have to start helping everybody.
Oh
But
yeah.
which I would assume that leads to them becoming like true hobbits and doing their little hobbit holes and stuff. So
Oh
yeah,
yes.
it's like there's an arc for the Harfoots, like an overall arc, and I love that. So the stranger gets injured because he like touches the ground and it like shakes off the wolf things. I say wolf things because they're mostly wolf, but they're pretty scary. And since he can be injured and he seems really puzzled by it, I thought that maybe that is an Astari being puzzled because he's in a human body that can be injured. And that would be something he wouldn't be used to.
I agree with that.
Then we get to Durin, Elrond, Gil-galad, and Celebrimbor having a meeting. um, one thing that I really like about this, like, they're having a very serious conversation, and Durin's trying to explain that basically the elves are disconnected. And the example he gives is the table we're sitting at right now. That material is made of something that's only used for monuments and tombs. And Gil-galad looks shocked and he's like, "Okay, I'm so sorry. We'll send the table with you when you leave." Like he's really trying, and it's a nice gesture. And what I love is later on Durin is like, no, the wife has been asking for a new table for a long time. He made it up. He made it all up.
I think Durin and Diza are like relationship goals.
Oh, they're fantastic. They're
But yeah,
great.
the fact that he made that up is funny.
Yeah, it's funny. And so he made that up, which I don't mind because that is a point to make to the elves. But the fact that like Deez is in the back of his head, like, you know what, I could do this to them and I could get her a new table. She's been wanting a new table. I love that. It shows how smart the dwarves are too. They could be sneaky. So, a really big issue with season one of Rings of Power from a lot of Tolkien fans was the discovery and explanation of Mithril. So we are told that an elf with a pure heart fought a Balrog. One of the Cimmerils is in a tree, and the Balrog is trying to get to the Cimmeril. And so the elf pours all his light into the tree to stop the Balrog. And that is how Mithril was created. And the statement that's made, I thought was really important. So in the story, you have, good versus evil, and you have this metal created. But Gil-galad says, it's pure and light as good. and strong and unyielding as evil. That's really telling. Because if all he said was it's pure and light is good, okay, that's one thing. You just said in the description that it's got duality, and that's for a reason.
Yep.
Because the Balrog had to be there for it to be made.
That's why I side-eye this Mithril.
Yeah. It's not all good. It's not all bad. So does that mean we have morally gray Mithril? Gilgalad is freaking out because he shows Elrond a tree, and the tree looks like it has like kind of some disease.
Yeah, it's like fading power is what I
Yeah.
equated it to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting dark. Like the little parts of the leaves are getting dark, and Gilgalad he's guilting Elrond to try to find out what the Mithril is. And then Celebrimbor says that if they can saturate all the elves with Mithril, that it would give them back the light of the Valar, because they're worried because the trees are turning dark that their power will fade and
Yeah.
diminish. So,
I wonder
but talk about how you love how Elrond won't break his oath.
Yeah, like I never really felt like Elrond so far in the show has been like, movie Elrond, like the Elrond I know. But in this scene, I feel like he was, because he swore an oath to Durin, and he's not going to betray that. And I know Gilgalad is like, hey, you're putting dwarves over your own race. Well, it's not that. It seems like he's just a very loyal person, and Durin is a really good friend, and he's a good ally to have. So I mean, because the dwarves are awesome, so it's like they do a lot, and they are important, and the way that Gilgalad's just like, you put them over your own race, well, it felt kind of racist to me at the same time, because it's like you want them to help you, yet you want, like you're trying to force Elrond to break something that he would never do, like it's just I don't like it. I didn't like that scene.
Yeah, they definitely put their own lives over others.
And they do, but Elrond isn't like that in my opinion. So
No, he's not. And you're right. It's starting to feel more like it's Elrond. It really
oh yeah,
is. Next, we have Galadriel, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this.
go ahead.
When Galadriel challenges the sailors that if any of them can best her, she'll make them a lieutenant, that arrogance didn't seem right for me. I don't know.
I see where you're coming from. Yeah, it was kind of weird, but I did like that scene. I liked the fighting scene. It was pretty cool.
It is, if you think of Galadriel as a different Galadriel, it's fine.
Yes.
My problem is every once in a while when something is very, very different, I think of Kate Blanchett in the movies, and it's very hard not to go, wait a minute, what? So I totally get, the complaints about Galadriel, because it happens to me too. It is a cool scene. It really is. And it makes Isildur stand out because he's the one that bests her. All he does is cut her sleeve, but she's an elf, so he did pretty good. But I get what people mean. I really do. So I'm going to try not to think of movie Galadriel too much, because that's when my brain starts going, eh.
Well, and you know how I feel about a certain scene, so I get what you're saying.
Well, go ahead and talk about that scene.
So, Galadriel and Adar, she has him, and like she captures him with Halbrand, and when they get to Middle Earth, the Southlands, and she interrogates Adar, and basically says, like, hey, why don't we bring your kids out into the sun, because he's not answering her questions, it would seem. And so that gets him to, because that would harm the orcs or kill them, whatever. And he does eventually talk about it. He does say all this stuff about how, like, what has happened to him. What talked about Sauron. Which, do you want me to get into detail of that, or do you just want me to get into?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
go ahead, because like we're just gonna do like a story overview and connect characters together.
Okay, so he talks about how Sauron was devoted to healing Middle Earth, and bringing its ruined lands together. He wanted the great power, not of the flesh, but all the flesh, and the power of the unseen world. And this is the shadow of dark. The knowledge of that was hidden from Sauron, no matter how much blood he had shed to get to it. And Adar also sacrificed a lot of his kids for what Sauron was trying to do. And he claimed to have killed Sauron, which is not true. And she says, because he keeps calling them children, she says they are not children; they are slaves. A mistake was made. They were made in mockery of elves. In that scene, there's some trivia for Amazon. For each episode, it seems like they have a little bit of trivia, and it says that Morgoth could not make real or new things of his own. He could only corrupt and twist that stuff that already exists. So that makes sense for that. So I have a feeling that that's what happened to Adar, and then
Oh my
Adar,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Adar was able to make new things. That's what I think.
Oh my God, he was. Oh my God.
Yes.
What you just said, and what I wrote down. Oh my God, we did it again. You're 50% and I'm 50%. Okay, so Morgoth could only corrupt. So you corrupt elves and make orcs. Okay, so
Yep.
Adar, he calls them Oruks, not orcs.
Yeah.
Oruks. Okay, so that's separate. That's a separate race. They're similar to orcs, but they're Oruks. And then I think that's what leads to Saruman making the Orukai.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's one evil can do this, then there's this step, then there's this step. So, because you take orc to Oruk to Orukai, and it just kind of follows like language. So yeah, I think you're right. Ooh, good point.
And what else I liked he says is that they are worthy of a breath of life. They are worthy of a home, and they are. I mean, yes, I understand that they're a different race. So, and yes, they're very similar to regular orcs, but they are important. They're not just slaves. And then she says, even if it takes me all of this age, I vow to eradicate every last one of you, but you shall be kept alive, so that one day, before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart, which she doesn't even know him, and she calls him, saying that he has a poisoned heart, I will whisper that all of your offspring are dead. And he says, it would seem I'm not the only elf alive who has been transformed by darkness.
Man.
And I think that's very powerful. It's a very great acting scene, but that's where I felt that wasn't like Galadriel.
And I completely agree. She is savage to him with what she says.
She even tries to kill him, and
Yep.
Halbrand stops her, which that should show you that that's not good what she just did.
Yeah. When Halbrand's like, hold up. Yeah,
Mhm.
you have a problem. Well, the thing is, that moment, you don't feel bad for Galadriel. You don't even think about her losing her brother. All you think
No.
is she would kill every single one of them right now. But she's staring at someone that was an elf, still is sort of an elf. She's assuming that he is on that side because he wants to be. I find it really funny that he could have been kidnapped and tortured and turned into that never enters her mind. That it probably wasn't done. It was probably done against his will.
No.
Or maybe
And
he regrets it. If he did volunteer, maybe he regrets it because he plants seeds and he looks at the sun, so he obviously misses elvish things.
well, the planting of the seeds made me cry. Like, I really loved that. That was a really good beginning, because it happens to more than once. You see it with him, then you see it with Arender, and I mean, Arender didn't plant it, but he was like, hey, plant these when the battle begins. I just loved that. But yeah, the acting, the writing for this scene, I know, like, yes, is it not Galadriel? Yeah, to me it doesn't feel like Galadriel, but I still liked the writing of the scene. Like, it was just, especially for Adar's part.
Yeah, and what I thought was really interesting is that Adar plants the seeds, and we find out later that that's the place that no longer exists is Beleriand, and that's where Arender is from. Well,
Ooh,
Adar said he was from there, so when he plants the seeds, he wasn't lying. He really was from that land.
ooh.
So that's interesting. He wasn't lying at all.
I wonder if we're gonna get more about Arender in season 2, like his past, because a lot of people are saying that that elves did not really like to mix with humans at the time. So how come he is, like, and I'm fine with it even if it's different from lore, but I'm curious to see how his parents were.
What I wonder, and this is kind of what I think in my head. I bet it was one of those situations where, like in Lord of the Rings, the Battle of Minas Tirith, it looks like it's not gonna go very well, and it's really brutal, and they're afraid, but it is what it is. And then you have Haldir show up with an elvish army, which is impressive as hell.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wonder if maybe the fight with Morgoth, if that forced an alliance, and maybe it came from that. That's the only thing I can
Maybe.
think of.
You're right. Maybe it has nothing to do with his family. Maybe it's just or maybe it's one of those things, because him and they were supposed to protect the humans. So maybe it's just one of those things that he just fell in love with Bronwyn. I mean, they are very much in love. He professes his love to her. So it's very sweet. I mean, he wants to have a life with her and Theo. Like, that's just really cute.
It's very cute, and he's epic. He's a great actor.
Oh, he's so nice and is so beautiful person, and it's just, I love him so much.
Well, I'm sure his backstory is tragic because when we see Galadriel put all those elvish helmets together, like after the war, and it's like a mountain, which means a mountain of elves died.
Yeah.
And I mean, elves are stronger than men, so I'm sure a lot of men died. Usually, when the elves and the men are getting along, it's because they're in an alliance. I think they get along when they need each other. I think that's when they're reminded that they can actually help each other. So,
Yes.
all right, so elves are immortal, but they can be killed or they can die of grief. But this is what's so sad. So, the elves didn't have a word for death before they went to war. They had no word for death before Morgoth.
Wow.
Isn't that sad?
That is sad.
What do you think about Isildur's dad?
I liked him at first, but when after the battle with, because when they get to the Middle Earth and they save the Bronwyn and her people, and then all of them, they save them afterwards, and then after the volcano erupts and we get Mordor, he is a completely different person from how he was before. And I get it, his son is missing, I mean, or dead, we don't know, but he blames Galadriel for the whole thing, and he's like, I could have just left her there. I should have just left her there instead of bringing her to Numenor. And I'm just like, what? How is it her fault? I mean, Muriel the queen isn't blaming her, so why are you? And And why aren't you going to look for your son? I mean, they leave without even going to what happened. I mean, for all we know, Isildur is still, uh, in the ruins of what happened after the volcano erupted.
So the sword that Theo
Yes.
gets, the sword that craves blood, it's a key. And then it leads to the eruption of what I guess now it's Mount Doom.
I thought it was interesting that Arondir tried to destroy the sword, but he couldn't with like anything. He tried everything to destroy it and he couldn't. So then he like decides to hide it, which was crazy. But the visual, seeing the water go through what I guess were the tunnels of the orcs, the orcs made, and then it goes into the mountain. It's just cool.
When Arondir tries to destroy the sword and he can't, did it remind you of Fellowship of the Ring when Gimli, like, he takes his axe to the ring and then dark speech comes from it and, like, you can't destroy it? That's what it made me think of.
Yes. I also liked when the orcs and Adar come, because they've hidden the sword. So now they're preparing. Like I like how they prepare for the orcs and Adar to come, and then when it's dark, seeing all the torches and like all the orcs coming was just very surreal. It was very pretty. And hey, look, Game of Thrones, House of Dragon need to take pointers from this show because they made a dark scene very bright.
Yeah, isn't that funny that you could do that? I was just gonna say a little side note. Andrea and I were talking about the horses
Oh yeah.
because, yeah, like Elendil has a horse and he is very fond of the horse. And he basically says that if you take a horse into battle, that you and the horse are bonded. So that's like right up our alley, basically. So I got the feeling that it's not just a regular horse. So I had to look it up. And the horses of Numenor, they're not just regular horses. So they're actually a mixed breed of wild horses from Middle Earth and elven horses from Valinor. Eventually, some of them end up in Middle Earth and they mix with horses. And all the way down the line, you get to the Dunedain, which is what Aragorn is. And then you remember the scene where Aragorn almost dies and his horse lays down so that he can crawl up on him. And it makes sense now because that horse would be a long descendant of the horses that were part elvish horses. So I thought that was really cool.
That is, and also the horse with Theodore, he clearly like cares more about his rider than his dad. It's crazy to me because he just zooms off, and I guarantee that horse went to go look for him.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I like the fact that they make it very clear that the horses aren't just like regular horses. See, this is what happens when you have a show that embraces magic instead of trying to dilute it.
I made a comment. Theo has the hots for Galadriel.
Yeah, he does. There's a little bit of irony there because there's a theory that Theo, because he gave his blood to the sword that ends up being a key, a lot
Yeah.
of people think that Theo is going to end up being a Nazgul, which are the Black Riders from Lord of the Rings. There were 9 kings of men. And some people think he's going to be a Nazgul. Some people think he's going to end up being the Witch King of Angmar, which he's the leader of the Nazgul. And he's the one that it is said that no living man can kill. If we see Theo go down a path and he ends up being a Nazgul, that's going to be insane. Just from seeing the trailers in season 2, I am so curious to know how Galadriel is going to deal with the fact that she was that close with Sauron. That close.
I mean, I wanted them to hook up. I mean, they had so many sweet moments together, especially in the finale before she finds out everything. I don't know. It's crazy to me because, I mean, I knew that it was going to be him, but the way that she finds out is crazy.
Well, I have a theory. So Galadriel has a husband.
Mm-hmm.
That we have not seen one time. She mentions him, I think, only once.
Is he dead? Do we think he's dead?
No, he is not dead. She says he is still out there. And my theory is Galadriel's husband, Celeborn, has not been seen in season 1. I think that's on purpose so that you could get the vibes between Galadriel and Sauron. Because if her husband's lingering around, that's not going to be able to be like delved into. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think they purposefully have him out doing some, I don't know, a quest or something. But I think he's going to be in season 2. That's what I think.
She listens to Celebrimbor say something like the flesh, talking about the flesh, the evil power wants, the flesh.
Yeah.
And her face when he said that, oh my gosh. And that's when she's like, hey, I need to do a background check on Halbrand. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Now you're going to do the background check on him? You've been around him for I know that she never really had a reason to look into him, but
she should have looked into anybody.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. You're brand new to him and he's a stranger, and like now all of a sudden you want to look into it because of that. Like that's crazy to me, because even I was just sitting here the whole time. I was like, are you kidding? Background check now? Okay. And then when she gets the background check, she says, there is no king of the Southlands. Your line was broken. Your crest died over 1,000 years ago. And I was like, does nobody do their own research? Like, this is crazy. And then he's like, I told you, I found it on a dead man. I just loved that because I was like, oh, shit.
Like, it's amazing. You're right. It's amazing that she never thought to look it up. But this is what I want to know. Okay, so what we have now is a Galadriel, and her hubris is so injured. Her arrogance can't continue because, yes, she's arrogant a lot.
She is.
She really is. And some of it's because she's an elf, some of it's because of her brother, and some of it is because I think it's part of her arc. But here's my question. She's got to go tell all her people, by the way, that guy that I brought, that was Sauron. She has to tell the elves that and the Numenorians.
What do you think Gilgalad is going to say?
That's what I want to know. Because she's going to tell him. They show in the trailer, like, when she tells him, we just don't know how it goes. Like, Elrond is going to be Elrond. He's going to be understanding, and Elrond will probably take it as anger at Sauron for deceiving Galadriel. I don't think the others are going to take it that well.
Well, and I mean, Elrond does see the thing. So when realization hits his face, he's like, "Oh my god!" Like they're all gonna probably be pissed. I mean, the rest of them will probably be pissed at her, but it's gonna be.
Elrond's thinking about him working in that damn forge.
I know, like the way he ran so fast up those stairs.
Look, I don't think Elrond will be angry at Galadriel. I think others will. Now, the one that's going to be freaking out is Celebrimbor.
Oh, I saw a picture of them today, so I'm very curious how that scene's gonna go.
Yeah, I saw there's a little bit of him in the second trailer, and he looks terrified. We're about to find out what went on in that damn forge.
Yeah.
But here's the trippy thing. And this is what I don't totally understand how it's going to go. But so Sauron looks completely different in season 2. Did you know a lot of people thought that was a different actor?
Yeah. And I did it first, but now I'm like, no, that's him. That's
Isn't
the same
that
guy.
crazy? I looked it up to be sure. Same. So they have him looking like what we would classically think of as an elf. And he's got the long blonde hair. I actually looked it up to see if Tolkien described like elves as having blonde hair. He didn't. He just basically described them as being incredibly strong, and yet they're still like graceful, like that. So I think that's a Peter Jackson thing, the blonde hair, but it's what we've classically put in our head as that's an elf. I mean, you got
So,
straight blonde hair.
so this is obviously going to be a glamour, or do we think this is how he really looks?
That's what I want to know. It's got to be a glamour though, because he wasn't an elf. I know he was under Morgoth, but I don't know where he came from.
I know I remember seeing people get upset that they made him a human in the first season. So
I know it's book canon that somebody shows up to Celebrimbor and gives a name, which is the third name we'll have for him. And Celebrimbor is like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm a giver of gifts." So,
huh.
so Celebrimbor is gonna find out from Galadriel that Sauron was Halbrand, but yet right after that, Sauron elf form is gonna show up, and Celebrimbor is gonna be like, "Okay, let's make some stuff."
Yeah,
So,
because people are going to be looking for Halbrand, not this guy. So
yep,
it makes sense.
yep, and I think that's when we start to see just how much Sauron's already worked all this out. Like, he knows what he's doing every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, he even says in the show, "I've had many names," so it's going to be interesting. I also like this part where he says, or she says to him, "You want to save Middle Earth or rule it?" And he says, "I see no difference." And I'm
Because
like,
he thinks he's gonna save it by taking it over.
yeah,
Anatar. That's it. Anatar. So Halbrand isn't a name that's in like the works of Tolkien, but Anatar is. So he's gonna introduce himself as Anatar.
interesting.
Yeah. He's called the One Enemy, the Necromancer. He's called the Black One, the Black Hand, the Shadow, the Ringmaker, the Sorcerer, the Nameless, and also the Lord of Gifts. And that's where the rings come in. And he's the Lord of Barad-dûr, the Lord of Mordor, the Lord of Earth, the God King, the King of Men, and just the King.
Huh.
That's not even all of them.
It's going to be very fascinating in season 2. I just know that.
So he's a Maya. The Maiar were the primordial spirits created to help the Valar first shape the world. So he is the same thing Gandalf is.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. The Maiar are the spirits created to help the Valar make the world.
Do you think if she would have succumbed to him, do you think he would have made her queen or just killed her?
I think he likes her.
Oh yeah. He's obsessed.
And
I think he's actually in love with her, to be honest.
I think so too, because he saw the darkness in her, and he saw, because if there's darkness, like his whole thing is he can make darkness grow. So I think he would have made her queen. Yes.
I see. I'm always for like evil together. Like I'm always. Not that I think she's just pure evil. Like I said, you know how I said nothing is evil in the beginning. Like they even say in the thing, Sauron was not evil in the beginning. So it's and even Adar says it. Adar says he's not evil until he wants to search for that power. So I just think if you twist her a little bit, maybe you can make her evil. And now I want to write a fan fiction for it.
I bet there's plenty. I bet there's a ton.
I have a problem, I know.
No, you
But
don't. You're fine.
but what I do like is when they make the rings, she says 3 rings instead of 1, because 1 is corrupt, 2 will divide, and 3 there will be a balance.
I love that too. I
That
absolutely
was a
love
very
it.
good line.
It really was. The Valar are like the gods of this world.
Hmm.
So Sauron is a Maiar. So get this. He's a fallen Maiar, which Sauron gives Lucifer vibes. Fallen angel. And so he's a fallen Maiar. And he's beautiful. Again, Lucifer vibes. So they retain their immortality, even if they're a fallen Maiar. And get this. When the physical body of a Maya is destroyed, their spirit wanders houseless and their power diminished until they may take a physical form once more. Or they get restored by the Valar. So when Gandalf is destroyed by the Balrog, the Valar send him back. In Lord of the Rings, Sauron's just a spirit and he's trying to take form again. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty interesting.
So to make these rings, what did Celebrimbor say? He said something like, "I need silver and gold from Valar," right? From Valinor. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's great character development that she gives her brother's dagger. It says that the gold and the silver in his dagger symbolizes the two trees of Valinor. So I really like that.
Same. And they actually show a picture of the three rings, and two of the rings are gold. And the one that's going to end up being Nenya, Galadriel's, is silver. And I think that's Mithril. Maybe not, but
It could be.
I'm pretty sure in the books it is Mithril, but like that doesn't mean that this one necessarily will be. But I feel like it will because it looks so different from the other two rings. One is gold with a blue stone, and another one is gold with a red stone, and then hers is silver with like a clear stone.
I call them the cult of Sauron because they think that who we think is Gandalf is Sauron, which I find very interesting. Everybody's Sauron in this show, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think the Greenwood where he's at is very pretty. I thought that was the most beautiful part of the finale, in my opinion, besides seeing Mordor again. I like how they pretended to be Nori to lure him. Well, first he was following them because they took his apple. So, and Nori gave him that apple, which I thought was a very heartwarming scene. And when he realizes it's not Nori, he's like, "Oh, and then they like trap him, and they're trying to make him realize who he is. And I thought that was kind of disturbing because they're harming him. And the whole time they were harming him, I'm like, don't you think this is bad? Like, shouldn't it not be harming him even if he doesn't know who he is? Like, I feel like it shouldn't be doing that. So I don't know how you felt about that, but I didn't like it. I mean, I liked the scene, but I didn't like that they were doing that to him and not caring,
I agree. That was a very disturbing scene and it made me stressed out. But just because, like, even under like torture, we don't know who he is, I think it's Gandalf. I do.
Well, it is Gandalf for sure. Or it could be Saruman, like some people are saying, but I don't know about that.
The reason I don't think it's Saruman is because we've got evil.
Well, and they talk about the lands of Rune, which I had to look up because I don't know what the lands of Rune is. It's a large region in eastern Middle Earth, home of the Easterlings in second and third ages, united by Sauron in hatred for the West, and they served him in the War of the Rings. So they think he's from there. But they realize after a while this is definitely not Sauron because he's not acting like it. Nori, Poppy, and then Sadak, they all came to protect him. I thought that was very good character development, and I liked how they were hiding in like the bushes and the trees to like fight these people off and distract them. These people pretended to be who we think is Gandalf too, which is crazy to me. That's insane, like glamoring. I liked it.
I just had a thought because of what you said. They thought he was Sauron.
Yeah.
Because he came in from a meteor. You remember when they find Morgoth's stronghold and the orcs that are frozen, and they did that dark magic to send him into the void?
Yeah.
That's why they thought it was Sauron, because Sauron went into the void. They thought the meteor was him returning from the void.
Oh.
I just realized that just now. And so they assumed that it was Sauron, not that it could be an Astari sent to balance, good and evil. So,
Yeah.
okay, so that means he did go into the void.
Yeah, but he didn't come back like that
No.
we know of, right? So
We don't know how he came back. First time we see him, he's on the wood, that little piece of
raft
whatever.
thing.
Do you think in season 2 we might see like a flashback of how he actually came back?
That'd be really cool. I hope we do. If he comes back the way that Gandalf came back, that'd be really cool.
They may show it because when he returns, he's changed form. We don't know what he looked like before Halbrand.
True. He said that he took that crest from a dead man. Do you think that dead man's gonna have Halbrand's face?
Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh, I just have to say, I think that's probably it.
If they sent him into the void, whatever body he had didn't go with him, he would have been just the spirit, and then he would have had to get like a host.
Oh, maybe that's his host. Maybe the dead guy. Yes.
Okay, I think we're figuring this out. And then he glamours himself as an elf, but it's the same body, he just alters it.
Different look. Yes.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to really realize it because he doesn't look exactly like Halbrand. So
Yep.
I'm just going to call him Gandalf. I like how he takes that weapon and he doesn't want to take it at first, but Nori's like, you choose by what you do. Because he thinks he's evil because they've said that he's Sauron, and he doesn't want to take it because he thinks he's evil. And she's like, no, you choose by what you do. And he kills them and he says, I'm good. And I liked that.
I liked it too. Because he was really stressed out that he was evil, which means he's not.
And it was sweet. It was just really cute.
And look, and Gandalf is sweet and cute. He's whimsical too. I want it to be Gandalf. I know there's a lot of Tolkien people that don't, but I do.
I want it to be Gandalf too. I don't care if it's nostalgic or whatever. I want it to be him. And even if it's not him, he's a very interesting character. And like the fact that he can talk so perfectly now. Him and Nori are going to go on an adventure together. It gave me Bilbo vibes because I was like, she's going on an adventure.
Do you think they might come across another Astari? Do you think maybe they might meet Radagast or something?
Yeah. I think they'll come by him or somebody.
Because they came at the same time. Saruman, Radagast, and Gandalf.
Maybe they'll find Saruman too. I don't know, but I think they'll find somebody.
Well, we get Tom Bombadil in season 2. Tom Bombadil is one of my favorite people in Tolkien, and he wasn't in any of the movies because Peter Jackson said he didn't really fit. He's beyond whimsical. He sings, he's incredibly powerful, and he has this beautiful wife. It's just like a whole thing. He'll show up and we can talk about him then. When he shows up, he's only in one episode, but he's iconic. You know how mad we were when they left out Nettles?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom Bombadil. He doesn't have that much information, but the information he has makes him iconic. So it was one of those things like, damn, we didn't get Tom Bombadil. So people freaked out when they found out he was going to be in season 2. So we're going to see him, and I look forward to it. They actually released a song to go along with it, and I haven't listened to it, but apparently it's doing really well. So he's just iconic. You'll love him, I promise.
I just want to say I really liked the finale. I think Sauron's going to head out. He's going to come back and he's going to be evil. And I can't wait to see more evil of him. And I want to know what's going to happen with Adar now. I have no idea what's going to happen there. I don't really have any theories on anything yet. I'd have to think about that. I can make a video at some point, but yeah.
Please check our socials, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, because other parts and theories will be posted there. So make sure you follow us. I'm Southern Mother of Dragons, and Andrea is the Princess of Dragonstone, and we're the same everywhere.
Yes.
All right. Well, this was very fun. I'm very excited for season 2, and I think it will do quite well. It's got a lot to work with.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait.
Same. Thank y'all so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Yeah, see ya.
Ta-da!
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.